Hello there and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. This is a program where we'll bring to you all the details and major developments in the world of business, finance, economy and the stock market. I am your host on the program, Christiana Amodu Otiya. Thank you for joining in on the program. First, to begin with the headlines. We are starting with the aviation sector. Now, taking a look at the Nigeria Air Agreement, the High Court has ordered the stoppage of a deal with Ethiopian Airlines. And in the telecom sector, the NCC declines Airtel's $273.6 million request for 5G licensing. We'll bring you more details in the business roundup segment of the program. I'll take a short breather now. When we return, it's the time to take updates from the stock market. Please stay. Welcome back. Now let's get into what's happening with the stock market. To begin from the Nigeria Exchange, of course, the local buzz on Custom Street. Now we have the Nigeria Exchange here reacting to the inflation numbers we saw coming from the National Bureau of Statistics, talking about Nigeria's inflation surging forward to 21.09%, and that is putting the Nigeria's market into the red zone. Now the preceding month, now this was higher than what we had in the preceding month as a result of sustained rise in the prices of goods and services in the country. Now this information did not go down well with stock market investors. Now they trimmed their exposure to the investment tool, causing the market to finish marginally lower, 0.02%. Now on activity level, you can see here now a total volume of 103.47 million shares valued at 1.19 billion naira change hands in 3,045 deals on the floor of the Nigeria Exchange. The equity cap settled at 23.86 trillion naira, while the benchmark all share index is at 43,808.25. So we have the numbers from the NBS coming on inflation, and we're having the stock market, of course, reacting to those numbers. Let's go over to all the buzzes we follow on the program for you in Africa, talking about the JSE and the Ghanaian buzz. Now the JSE is up 0.24% there, so it's in the green, while in Ghana we have a close of 2,451 and the Ghanaian buzz is largely unchanged. However, moving over now to Wall Street, looking at what's happening in the United States. Now, a lot of geopolitical tension is really impacting the market mid-week, and we saw stocks rising in early trade as investors weigh another lighter than expected inflation report and looked ahead, of course, to retail sales data due in the U.S. Now, we are seeing the market finishing largely in the green here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 0.17%. The S&P 500 climbed 0.87% there to end at 3,991.73, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite is up 1.45%. As you can see here, geopolitical tensions around what's happening with Ukraine, Poland, and Russia. Now, the issue about a missile that struck in some parts of the border from Poland to Ukraine. Now, that's causing a lot of tension. Although President Joe Biden has said that he doesn't believe that the missile that struck and killed 2 people came in from Russia, and a lot of news is coming out with regards to that. Going over now to the European Straits. Now, European market opened largely mixed. Now, in Germany, we have the DAX down 0.11%. The CAC 40 is up 0.15%. That's the CAC run in France, and the FTSE 100 in the UK is up there 0.57%. Now, UK inflation jumped to a 41-year high of 11.1% in October, exceeding expectations as food, transport and energy prices continue to squeeze households and businesses in the United Kingdom. Now, the country faces its longest recession on record. That's according to the BOE, the Bank of England, attempting to coordinate the tightening of fiscal and monetary policy in order to rein in inflation. So there's still a whole lot going on with what's happening in the United Kingdom, especially on the economic front. Now, power just recently changed hand. We have Rishi Sunak coming as the Prime Minister there in the United Kingdom. So a whole lot is on his plate now to look at what will be the way forward to rescue the economy of the United Kingdom, and those are some of the core data that investors are, of course, monitoring in the Eurozone. Going over to the Asia Pacific region, markets were mostly lower on Wednesday. Now, the Shanghai Composite is down 0.47%, and the Kospi in South Korea is down 0.12%. However, in Japan, the Nikkei 225 climbed 0.14%. As you can see, that's the only positive we have on these charts. Going over to commodities, however, in Asia, we also expect key figures from the Indonesia Central Bank, talking about issues around tightening inflation. For the commodities market, the Brent crude is at $92.86 per barrel, down 1.06%. Now, oil prices were little changed as COVID-19 cases in China continued to climb, sparking worries over lower fuel demand from the world's top crude importer and outweighing concerns about an escalation of geopolitical tensions and tighter oil supply. Now, that's what is keeping oil prices on the lead, basically, still hovering around the $90, $92 per barrel mark. So whatever happens in China, as one of the biggest crude importers in the world, affects largely the oil market. China has been battling issues around the COVID-19 cases. We saw that the country did ease some of the guidelines that were put for COVID-19 to ensure that there is more free flow of activity. But now the cases are surging, and that's affecting what we are seeing with oil prices. For the bullion, gold prices steadied near a 3-month peak as signs of cooling U.S. inflation boosted bets for smaller rate hikes. Now we are seeing gold at $1,772.94 per ounce. Now remember, gold is considered a hedge against inflation, and there's like an inverse relationship between both parties. Gold is down marginally there, 0.03%. For the agro commodity, now we are seeing a mixed bag now for the agro commodities. Palm oil is in the red, 0.22% down. Wheat is also in the red, down 1.19%. And for cocoa, the only green we have for the agro commodities is at $2,500 per metric ton, up 0.12%. Now going over to the cryptocurrency market. This market has really been a focus for investors for some time now, from what happened with the FTX. Now we are seeing the market contagion from FTX spread rapidly in the crypto market, sending the 162 asset CoinDex market index down by 18% so far. Now for the flagship cryptocurrency, that's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is down 0.23%. However, for Ethereum and the Binance coin, we're seeing them staying above water, trying to stay above murky waters for the market. Now Ethereum is up marginally there, 0.02% at $1,246, and the Binance coin is up 0.47%, still around the $278 mark. Remember, due to what we saw happen in recent days, we saw that price for the Binance coin come down below the mark of $300. Those are the numbers we have to crunch for you today on the program. At this juncture, we'll bring you the business roundup, or we'll give you a roundup of stories in the world of business.
The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has stopped the federal government from going on with its Nigeria Air agreement reached with Ethiopia Airlines. The court granted an order of interim injunction restraining the federal government from executing the proposed or draft agreement of the establishment of a national carrier between Ethiopian Airlines and Nigeria. The Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has rejected Airtel Africa's bid to buy 3.5 gigahertz spectrums for 5G deployment without participating in an auction. Airtel Africa had, during the stakeholders meeting on Tuesday in Abuja, declared its readiness to pay $273.6 million for the 5G spectrum after losing the first auction to MTN Nigeria and Mafab Communications in December of 2021. However, the NCC has declined the request, insisting that Section 124 of the Nigerian Communications Act has already set out the process to assign licenses. The second largest telecom in Nigeria had participated in the 5G auction of 2021, in which it lost to Mafab Communications and MTN Nigeria, both of which bid $273.60 million to defeat Airtel's final bid at $270 million. Airtel said the slot should be reserved for it as an administrative assignment for participating in the 2021 auction.
for the business roundup. However, our focal point for the program today will be on the inflation numbers released by the National Bureau of Statistics, talking about inflation climbing to a 17-year high of 21.09%. I have my guest with me in the studio now. He is Dr. Aliyu Ilyas, a financial analyst. Now, Dr. Aliyu, I really want you to tell me what you make of these numbers briefly before we go on the first break of the program, because at this point it's looking like inflation is defying logic in Nigeria. If I were a magician, I would probably wave a wand and probably bring about a turnaround for inflation. What do you make of these numbers we saw for the October inflation report?
All right, thank you for having me. It's quite challenging, but the fact just means that it's a global problem. However, if we have had a better shock absorber here, it will be very, very better. Because if you look at our own inflation driven, it's basically food inflation. And this is what we have in abundance in Nigeria. Perhaps if you look at even where the food inflation is higher, have the highest number, it's between the central Nigeria, which is the middle belt, such as Kwara and Kogi. Normally we would expect that these people should have abundance of food, but the challenge is maybe the logistics, the food supply, the production process and whatever. I think these are the problems that we need to really look at very, very well, because a lot of things are coming to play. Once you have food inflation, a lot of challenges will come around it.
Food inflation causing that surge. Now, it has been said that the inflation in Nigeria is largely structural. Now, the CBN has heightened the rates for some time now, and it's not just peculiar with the CBN in Nigeria, but even the CBN, the central bankers across the world. Now, what do you have to say about the fact that now it's looking like it is beyond what monetary policy can do, that issues around the structural challenges must be addressed?
Now, if you look at it generally, even naturally, it should have been fiscal policy and monetary policy, and that's the challenge we are having. It seems to have, it seems to be working opposite direction. If you look at what happened recently about the redesign of Naira. However, if every country comes together to work on this fiscal policy and monetary policy, it brings out a better economy, and they can forge ahead to have a better plan. If you look at
Okay, just before you land on that, Doctor, let's quickly take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on inflation. So we'll hold our fire at this point, and the program continues shortly. Please stay.
That's great. It's good to see you.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back, and thank you for still staying there with us on the program. This is Business Daily, and we're coming to you live from Trust Television. Now, let's just give you a breakdown of the inflation numbers we saw coming from the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, headline inflation rates put at 21.09%. The urban inflation rate at 21.63%. Rural inflation rate 20.57%. Food inflation, like my guest was mentioning earlier, we plays a critical role in that basket, 23.72%. Now, all items inflation rate on a year-on-year basis was highest in Kogi State, 25.15%, Bauchi State, 23.45%, Ondo State recorded 23.45%, while Plateau State, Borno State, and Nasarawa State, they recorded the slowest rise in headline inflation year-on-year at 19.02, 19.31, and 19.39% respectively. For food inflation on a year-on-year basis, it was the highest in Kwara State, 30.79%, Kogi State, 28.74%, and Imo State, 28.64%, while Kaduna State, Plateau State, and Jigawa State recorded the slowest rise in food inflation at 19.96%, 20.17%, and 20.42% respectively. Now I want to bring Dr. Aliyu Elias, financial analyst, who is with me here in the studio, into the conversation. We also have a comparison as to what the inflation numbers look like, what the trajectory has been basically from the year 2021 to where we are at now. As high, is it in a high of 17 years? And you were talking about issues around how we need to do more in terms of looking at the structural angle. Right. And you spoke to the alignment between the fiscal and the monetary policies to help rein in inflation, as we have seen that the numbers have continued to rise. I want you to land on that thought before I bring in my next question.
Yes, thank you for having once again. The fact does remain that if you look at the major driver of this inflation, like we rightly said, is food. And apart from food, you also see the depreciation of the naira, because yes, you know we need to do a lot of importation, and for you to import, you need to come up with dollars and foreign currencies. So that's another problem we are fighting. And another thing is energy. You know, for you to do a lot of things, diesel, it's very, very, very expensive. Yes. And as a manufacturer, these are what you need. So anytime you incur all these high costs, you transfer it to the consumers, and that's why inflation keep on dipping demand. I don't see it coming down even up to first quarter of next year.
Okay, I want you to speak to what are some of the critical pathways that we should begin to explore to bring down inflation, because now we're in full-blown electioneering season, and we expect the first quarter of the year 2023 to be focused largely on developments from the election. Now, what are some of the critical pathways that we can look at to explore, basically, to see how we can bring inflation down? That's one, and also cushion the impact of rising inflation on the pockets of Nigerians.
All right. First and foremost, I think if we want to really bring down this inflation, we need to look at the manufacturing sector and the MSME. Now, if you look at manufacturing sector, these people go to bank to get money. Remember, during this inflation like this, people prefer to have their money in the bank than to run business. So if now you are not borrowing at 15.5%, now you very discouraged, which is monetary policy. So there's need for them to bring that down, because most of the things we are doing now are being counterproductive and it's affecting us otherwise. So there's need for the manufacturing sector to have the more money to produce more. By the time it goes down, it reduces the inflation. Then the issue of the naira to dollar is another thing they can do, is also create a special avenue for this manufacturer to access forex. So by the time they access this forex, they will not transfer the supposed high cost to because they would have get the forex and to do a lot of. Because now the challenge is that people that are accessing forex are not the actual people that actually need this money to transact business. These are the challenges. So if you can work on manufacturing sector, empower the MSME more, and look at that monetary policy vis-a-vis the fiscal policy. And you know that we said we are going to change our currencies. Another factor that we need to consider. I'm also of the advocate that we should extend that period. You know, we are saying January 31st. We can do it, maybe it will extend to the next 6 months in the next coming year. That will also, because it will reduce the challenge of keeping the dollars, keeping foreign currency. People will relax and will have much a balanced forex, so to say.
I also want to get your opinion on what you think the fiscal authorities will do, because naturally, just like all the central bankers across the world, we are seeing the CBN employ the hawkish approach to help rein in inflation. It's working for the United States. We saw inflation coming from the United States, 7.7%, and we are seeing that the hike is beginning to come down. Now, what should the CBN has tried to say? We want to control inflation. We want to bring inflation down. We have seen that the rate was hiking in the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting. Now, I want you to speak quickly, what should the fiscal arm do now to help complement the work being done by the CBN? You know,
if you look at the current economic system, is a bit changing from the natural one that we used to see. Normally, when there is inflation, government tend to maybe increase something so that people will spend less. But the challenge now is that spending less is not the problem, but people does not even have the purchasing power. So we must find way of putting things in place to create more purchasing power to people. And how do you get more purchasing power? Is to have more money in your pocket. So government should come in to make sure that things are coming down, because supply is major issue even in the agricultural sector, because we have insecurity problem. People cannot access a lot of things. So if we can create a enabling environment for this and people can access the market very well, things will come down. Because if you look at it very well, look at the market, about 740 products is what they are monitoring. So if you look at that, if those things can be easily accessible, consumers will find it easy, and it will not erode the purchasing power of people. Just before we go, I want to hear your thoughts on what to expect. In the coming week, we expect the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria to have its last meeting for the year 2022. And like I mentioned, the CBN has continued to wield the big stick and say we need to bring down inflation. This rate would be heightened. Now, I want to have your thoughts. What do you expect? Do you expect another tightening from the CBN? But if you ask me what I expect from there, is either to maintain or to reduce. Because if we do anything to increase, it will jeopardize all the economic system. And like I said, there must be a good marriage between the fiscal policy and monetary policy. So they must become, ideally, this permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finances, they work together, but just late last week or 3 weeks ago, we had seen challenges in that. So I think they should work together to give us a better economy in Nigeria. So do you think we're going to see a tightening stance or a loosening stance? I think they should just maintain where they are now. They should maintain the position they are in now. That's the best. If they try to loosen, or to have some effect. But if you can maintain it like this, I think up to this, remember December have its own natural inflation.
Yes.
So now, because people are buying more things and election is also coming, so we have
Yes.
to just maintain and see how it works.
Thank you so much there, Dr. Aliu Ilyas, financial analyst. Thank you for coming on the program to share your thoughts on
Thank you for having
how
me.
we can rein in inflation in the country. And that's the size of Business Daily we have for you today on the program. Thank you always for investing your time with us on the program. Don't forget you can catch up on all news making the polity and also all programs on our social media platform as is displayed there on your screen. You wouldn't miss out on anything, I can assure you of that. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Continue to stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.